When darkness falls on Haddonfield and a familiar masked figure emerges from the shadows, the body count begins to rise. As the screams echo through the night, you might wonder, just how deadly is Michael Myers this time around? Prepare yourself for a spine-tingling journey through the nightmare, and let's tally up the terror in the Halloween 2 kill count. Oh, and as you can see, Mordecai decided to join us again.
Decided? More like it was dragged here against my will.
Ever the charmer. Hey there, before Mordecai and I break down the most spine-tingling endings and count the body piles of our favorite horror flicks, I have a question. Are you the kind who stays up replaying those final scenes, counting every scream, every slash?
Ever get that eerie feeling wanting to know just how many meet their doom and how it all ties up in the bloody finale?
Well, you're in the right crypt. Here, we dissect horror movies, tallying up The Departed and unraveling those twisted endings, serving it fresh every week.
So if you crave for that adrenaline rush that only a good scare can bring, here's a challenge for you. The next time the like button tries to hide under your bed, scare it back with a click. But don't stop there.
Dare to hit that subscribe button. And if you want to be the first to hear the ghostly tales of terror we dig up, ring that notification bell.
Ready to dive into the abyss of horror lore? Let the chills begin.
Now, fans of the original might remember it was supposed to be the last of Michael Myers. John Carpenter and Deborah Hill intended it as a final curtain call for our masked murderer.
Because killing spree franchises always end after 2 movies, right?
Funny, right? This is the horror genre after all. Now, while Michael did take a hiatus till 1988, our third installment got a bit sidetracked with masks.
Ah yes, the notorious masked detour. Who doesn't love a good diversion?
Indeed. But let's talk about what makes Halloween 2 so memorable. Director Rick Rosenthal teamed up with Dean Cundey, the original's director of photography, capturing that same eerie visual essence that fans love. And oh, speaking of capturing, you might recall Cundey's lens mastery in Jurassic Park as well.
Big leap from knife-wielding maniacs to dinosaurs. Evolution's a beast.
Ha, nice one. Now, the audience got a fuller view of Michael this time, brought to life by Dick Warlock. By the way, a little trivia, Warlock was the stunt double for Kurt Russell in Escape from New York.
Does he have preference for movie with masks or what?
Must be a trend, and about that iconic mask, you might notice it hasn't changed. Cherish it, folks. Changes are coming in the sequels.
Change? Who likes change, especially when it comes to iconic horror masks?
Exactly. Now, as a storytelling enthusiast, I appreciate how Halloween the 2nd picks up seconds after the original. Most of it is set in the hospital where Laurie Strode, played by the talented Jamie Lee Curtis, finds herself. Fun fact, Jamie Lee starred in Trading Places, a different kind of horror for some, the corporate kind.
You humans and your priorities.
Well, the torment of being bedbound, feeling trapped and vulnerable, it's a genuine nightmare. Also, Jamie Lee's wig in the movie, more terrifying than Myers.
Shallow humans judging by hair, classic.
But for all you gore enthusiasts, this sequel does not hold back. The kills are more visceral.
Visceral, nice word choice. Makes me hungry.
I bet it does. And remember Dr. Sam Loomis? He's here, becoming more unhinged than ever.
Unwilling, you see. Sounds like someone I'd like to hang out with.
Well, in between his episodes, the film treats us to Meister Sandman by the Cordettes. Bit out of place, but oddly fascinating.
Perhaps more fitting, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy would appreciate it.
Agreed. Odd choices aside, the franchise's love for that song is puzzling.
Life's no fun without a good scare.
I see what you did there. And for those who adore the original, you get to relive the ending with a few embellishments.
Embellishments sounds like someone's rewrite of history.
And with that, it's time to tally up the kills. Are you ready, Mordecai?
Do I have a choice?
Not really. After the opening credits, we're thrust once again into that disconcerting first-person view, the same technique the original capitalized on. But you know, it's not just a lazy copy. Our director Rosenthal is striving for unity between the 2 movies, trying to weave them seamlessly.
Nothing like seeing the world through the eyes of a psycho. Quite the perspective.
The nuances of human perception. Remember, this is the very same Rosenthal who brought Bad Boys, 1983. With Sean Penn, a dive into the troubled youth psyche. Now Loomis, he's starting to lose it. The guy's really unraveling.
I shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart.
Maybe Loomis needs glasses or a math lesson.
Right? And speaking of Michael's POV, he soon wanders past a clothesline, peeping at an elderly couple engrossed in Night of the Living Dead. They're so busy soaking in the horror, they fail to notice their own.
Must be a commentary on human obliviousness. Or maybe it's just free on TV.
Most likely the latter. Now, while they're entranced, Michael grabs himself a handy kitchen knife.
Every good chef's essential tool.
As he's sneaking around, a news broadcast about his antics comes on. Michael, thinking on his feet, or should I say on his murder boots, decides it's time to bolt.
Smooth move, Mikey. Can't stay famous forever.
And then we're introduced to poor Alice Martin, the unsuspecting teenager next door. Honestly, the girl might as well have "next victim" stamped on her forehead.
She was practically seasoned and ready to be served on a platter.
Precisely. After an ill-advised venture to an open door, she becomes Michael's next casualty. And well, let's just say the sequel isn't shy about the blood factor.
It's almost poetic. The dance of predator and prey.
Back to our main protagonist. Laurie's taken to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital by paramedics Jimmy and Bud. And oh boy, the hospital scene, it gave me chills with that kid sporting a razor blade in his mouth.
Humans and their weird dietary choices.
Dr. Mixter, who might have enjoyed a few too many, takes charge, his medical expertise knocking Laurie out with a hearty dose of drugs.
Seems legit. Who needs a proper diagnosis when you have sedatives?
Loomis is back at it, playing detective with Sheriff Brackett. They think they've spotted Michael, and in a dramatic display, Loomis pulls a gun on an innocent trick-or-treater.
This is what happens when you skip your morning coffee.
And then, boom, quite literally, a fiery explosion and the revelation that it's Ben Tramer, the guy Laurie had the hots for. Talk about a date getting blown off.
Well, they say love burns hot.
Mordecai, ever the romantic. To wrap up, let's acknowledge Loomis's hand in that unintended murder.
Just another day in Haddonfield.
Tragedy befalls the Brackett family as Deputy Gary Hunt delivers the unfortunate news. Annie was among Michael's victims. The Wallace residence is buzzing with reporters. Among them is a very silent Dana Carvey, oddly dressed like he wandered off the set of Strange Brew. I guess everyone starts somewhere.
Fashion tragedy, perhaps.
Sheriff Brackett, devastated by the sight of his daughter's body, a grim cameo for actress Nancy Loomis, soon leaves the film, passing the law enforcement baton to Deputy Hunt. Before he takes off, he lashes out at Dr. Loomis with a "you let him out," a blame game with a flair for the theatrical.
Well, someone's gotta blame the doctor, right?
Meanwhile, Michael Myers, Haddonfield's resident nighttime wanderer, crosses paths with a boombox-wielding cowboy. Little trivia for the fans, this youngster is Lance Warlock, son of Dick Warlock, our masked villain. Michael learns through the grapevine, well, the radio, that Laurie's recuperating at Haddonfield Memorial.
Radio. The prehistoric version of social media.
He arrives at the hospital in no time. The security there, Mr. Garrett, our so-called guardian, is obviously too engrossed in whatever he's doing. Not monitoring, that's for sure.
Job dedication. So inspiring.
And then we have Jimmy, our paramedic with a heart of gold, and maybe a bit of puppy love for Laurie. Despite his friend Bud's high advice about not getting involved with patients, he can't resist sneaking back in. He spills the beans about her assailant's identity.
Seems he's nursing more than just patients.
When Laurie finally realizes her attacker was Haddonfield legend Michael Myers, her reaction is a testament to Jamie Lee Curtis's range. It's a "wait, what?" moment. And speaking of suspense, when the phone lines go down, our dear negligent security guard Mr. Garrett goes to investigate, leaving Nurse Janet clueless with a walkie-talkie.
Human error. So predictable.
But oh, the irony. After a drawn-out scene in the storeroom, Michael surprises Mr. Garrett with a hammer claw to the cranium. Shades of Friday the 13th Part 2. 1981 was quite the year for hardware store weapons.
Hammer time, anyone?
Couldn't have said it better. As the suspense builds, we're left wondering, who's next on Michael's list? So Bud, our beloved stoner heartthrob, finds himself being wooed by another nurse, Karen, while our protagonist Laurie seems to be lost in some trippy memory lane, dreaming about family picnics. Oh, and surprise, surprise, young Michael makes a cameo in the dream, foreshadowing or just a reminder of the nightmare she faced. The lines blur.
Good old family memories. Really warms the heart. Or chills it.
Continuing with the trope of horror films using questionable decision-making, we find Bud and Karen in a therapy hot tub. I'd bet a large sum that nothing therapeutic is on their minds. But Michael, ever the party crasher, decides things need to heat up.
Hope he brought marshmallows.
After a brief fingertip tasting interlude, and trust me, it's as weird as it sounds, Karen meets her demise. It's a hot tub, not a pot roast, Michael. The effects though, pure cinematic gold. You'd think Karen's face was sponsored by Elmer's glue.
Face mask gone wrong.
Now here's where it gets interesting. Karen ironically bemoaned water activities earlier, talking about bobbing for apples. It's like she almost predicted her own fate. And the townspeople, rioting like there's a Black Friday sale at the Myers house. Loomis, well, he's just lost it, hasn't he? Calling it a wake. Maybe he should take a nap.
Or lay off the coffee.
Our skilled investigators, clearly experts in ancient Gaelic festivals, stumble upon a school. There, they find a word carved into a desk, probably Michael's attempt at spelling bee practice. Loomis, using all his linguistic skills, confidently pronounces it as Samhain. For those who are not linguists, it's Soan, close, but no cigar, Doc.
It's just a bunch of hocus pocus!
Oh, and a little nod to Pamela Shoop and Dick Warlock. They really did make that gruesome scene quite unforgettable. All in all, things are heating up. And I'm not just talking about the tub. We see a familiar face from the original, Nurse Marion Chambers. She made quite an entrance right in the beginning of the first movie. Now she's back for a chat with our dear Dr. Loomis.
Oh, the dynamic duo. Well, kind of.
Loomis is so caught up in his theories that he can't even remember Marion. How could he? Especially with her chain-smoking ways. She is a true beacon of health.
Clear lungs. Clear conscience.
Anyway, Marion brings news from the governor that's akin to being sent to the principal's office. Loomis has been acting a bit, let's say, unprofessional, but the bigger bombshell is about Laurie's true lineage. Surprise, surprise, she's Michael's baby sis. Who would have thought family reunions could be this deadly?
Talk about family drama. Skip the turkey. Pass the knife.
Loomis's reaction, pulling a gun on the federal marshal, ever the rational one.
Classic Loomis. Always aiming for solutions.
Back in the good old hospital, Jimmy's like an overeager puppy checking on Laurie. He stumbles upon another nurse, Nurse Jill. And then there's Nurse Janet. Oh, and don't forget the cocktail-loving Dr. Mixter.
A doctor after my own heart.
But it seems Dr. Mixter had one too many, or rather a syringe too many, cause he's dead. As for Nurse Janet, let's just say she had an unexpected air appointment with Michael.
Guess it wasn't her kind of spa day.
And Michael? Well, he pays a visit to Laurie's room ready for his grand act. But it's a trap. Pillows. Our heroine's cunning knows no bounds.
Pillow talk just got a whole new meaning.
Though Laurie's burst of energy is short-lived. Just as we think she's taking control, she takes a nap. Oh, Laurie, we were rooting for you.
Everyone needs a power nap, DJ.
Can't argue with that. So, as the plot thickens and our characters intertwine, let's see where this maze takes us next. And the macabre hospital tour continues. As if the place wasn't creepy enough, Jimmy finds head nurse Alves in what I can only describe as a makeshift bloodbath. Michael Myers is not just about the killing, he's about the theatrics.
A touch of Italian flair with a giallo vibe. Magnifique.
Unfortunately, Jimmy's reaction to the grisly scene is to take a slip-and-slide trip in the puddle of blood. That's going to be a tough stain to get out. Meanwhile, Laurie's awake, briefly.
I guess hospitals aren't for resting after all.
True, especially when Michael's in the mood for some operating of his own. Nurse Jill becomes another casualty of Michael's scalpel skills. And that lift? Eerie reminiscence of Bob's death, but with a little shoe drop twist.
Guess Michael has a flair for the dramatic.
Now, we dive into a nail-biting chase. Michael and Laurie, round 2. Laurie finds herself in the confines of an elevator, narrowly escaping Michael's grasp, and then hides out in a car in the parking lot.
Not the most strategic of hiding spots.
Jimmy, being Jimmy, pops up for a brief spell, passing out at the wheel. He doesn't add to the death count, but he sure added to the tension.
Maybe he should have stuck to bed rest.
Laurie's escape seems imminent when Loomis and the gang arrive, but not before a classic cat and mouse game ensues. And Michael? That guy knows how to make an entrance, smashing through glass doors like they're mere cobwebs.
Who need doors when you're Michael Myers?
In a predictable move, Loomis pumps Michael full of lead, thinking that'll be enough to take down the Shape. But if history tells us anything, it's that Michael Myers isn't that easy to put down. I've got to say, the choices made by the characters in this film are sometimes enough to drive you mad. The Marshal, for instance, leaves himself open for a swift death by Michael's scalpel. Common sense was apparently off the menu.
Standard horror fare.
And then there's the grand showdown in the surgery room. Loomis and Laurie play this cat and mouse game with Michael crashing through doors as if they were made of cardboard. Quite the entrance, I must say. But the tables quickly turn when Loomis is wounded and Laurie gets her hands on that backup gun.
Never underestimate the final girl.
Oh, absolutely. And those shots Laurie took straight through the eyes, allowing for that incredible visual of blood streaming down from Michael's mask. Gave me chills. The standoff with the gas tanks and the explosion. A masterclass in suspense and tension building.
Fiery finish.
Indeed. And what's more incredible is the resilience of Michael Myers coming out from that inferno. That stunt, by the way, was dangerously real, and Dick Warlock suffered real burns. But eventually, the relentless killer falls. Though, as we know from the sequel, this isn't truly the end for him or Loomis.
Some legends never die.
The film's ending, with Laurie being taken away and Michael burning, set against the song Mr. Sandman, paints such a haunting picture. An eerie calm after the storm, reminding us that sometimes the most dangerous places aren't dark alleyways or haunted houses, but the very places meant to heal and protect us. A chilling reminder that horror lurks even where we least expect it. Alright folks, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. After all that suspense and chase, just how lethal was Michael in Halloween 2?
The number game's always fun.
Exactly. So diving right in, Michael managed to off a total of 10 people this time around, effectively doubling his initial murder spree. The gender distribution here is pretty equal, with 5 men and 5 women meeting their untimely end.
Equal opportunity killer, that Michael.
Haha, seems so. And if we're breaking it down further, with the movie running for about 92 minutes, we're looking at a death roughly every 9.2 minutes. It's a fast pace if you ask me.
Never a dull moment.
Right, now for the awards. The Golden Boomstick Award for the most creatively gruesome kill has to go to Nurse Karen. I mean, having your face repeatedly dunked and peeled off in a scalding hot tub. It's gruesomely unforgettable. It's almost poetic, in a morbid way.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be her.
On the flip side, the tamest token award for the most uninspired kill will have to be handed to the Marshal. Not only was his decision to approach Michael head-on mind-boggling, but the actual death scene and that oddly comical face he made just didn't do it for me.
Agreed. Could have been better.
As we conclude this Halloween 2 kill count, it's intriguing to highlight that this 1981 film was a major box office success. This does make the peculiar direction the series later took with Season of the Witch even more baffling. We'll unravel that mystery in our next discussion.
That's a story for another day.
Indeed, but for now, let's wrap this up. I'm TJ, and this has been Slice and Dice. Thanks for being with us.
Stay vigilant and always avoid those ominous masked figures.
And on that note, it's time for you to leave.